Okay, man, things have definitely changed. Okay, so looks like your entry into Harley-Davidson is $12,000. That's a pretty steep price for an entry-level motorcycle. 975cc Nightster. You got your special model. That's wow, 13 and a half grand. And the 125 horsepower Sportster S is at $17,000. Man, that is very expensive. Cool new bikes, but very expensive. Now, where that Sportster S leaves off price wise, you got your Softail Standard. That's 15 grand. At that rate, you're kind of crossing over a little bit. You could for the price of a Sportster S, you're looking at getting into a larger bore Softail. So yeah, 15 grand, 17 grand for the 114 Street Bob. And, the Fat Boy is 22 grand. The Breakout is 22 and a half grand. The Lowrider S is 20 grand. Yikes, 23 grand for the Lowrider ST. These are all phenomenal bikes. For the 114, and it looks like, I think that's got the 107 in it. The Standard, I believe, has the 107. Now you got your touring bikes. We're really up there now. Your Road King Special, which is your fairingless bagger here, that's 25 grand. And it only gets worse from here. The Road Glide is 26 and the Street Glide is 26. Now I know what you're going to say. This year's new models with all new motor, technology, fairing, look, all that, new paint job, it's the same price as the specials from last year, but the entry level price is what I'm looking at here, and 26 grand is quite a bit. If you want to get into a true touring motorcycle, you're paying more than 26, so you're walking out the door with 30,000. The CVO 45. Oh yeah, 45 grand. Even the Limited at 32 grand is pretty crazy. And then you got your Pan America. I will say that Pan America 1250 is pretty freaking sweet. I've ridden one. They're freaking awesome. 20 grand. Yeah, if the reliability was there, I would even have one right now, most likely. But yeah, they can't really be trusted right now. And then of course you got your three-wheelers, which is pretty wild. They still do that. Okay, now here's my 2024 lineup. I think they should have kept the street rods. They should have kept the Street 500 around for sure. They definitely should have kept the Street 500 around. They could have priced that low. They could have kept the entry-level price into Harley-Davidson around $6,500. I think they started making the Street 500 and Street 750 in like 2014, and they weren't the most well-received, but man, these are actually awesome bikes, and if they had continued making them, they could have improved the reliability. And they could have had a much cheaper entry, a sub $10,000 entry into Harley-Davidson. So these bikes are pretty freaking sweet. I mean, the 750 Street Rod is definitely a favorite. I've seen a lot of people wheeling those and treating those like a stunt bike. It also kind of opens the door for a naked bike. They could have transitioned these motors with a little improvement. They could have transitioned these motors into a naked sport bike genre. They could have made these into more of a naked sport bike. We could have gotten a Bronx way sooner than this. We could have gotten, if they decided to put these motorcycles out before 2014, like 2008, 2009, we could have already had a naked sport bike with the 500 and 750 engine in it. So I think they messed up by getting rid of those. 2024 lineup, they should have had a 2024 Street 500 and a Street Rod 750. Let's see, the XR 1200. Big competitor for Harley-Davidson is Indian, and one of the motorcycles that's pretty unique to Indian is the FTR 1200. Well, the XR 1200 from Harley-Davidson could have easily been a competitor to the FTR by now. I think they started making these in like 2010, 2011, and I don't know. I like the performance of the new 1250 Rev Max, but they could have just kept the regular Sportster 1200 engine and just improved upon that a little bit. You know, squeeze a little bit more power out of them, maybe increase the displacement, put catalytic converters on them to keep them compliant. And they could have had a 95, horsepower 1200cc engine in one of these with a buttload of torque, 90 pound-feet or something like that. That would be incredible. That would be, they could have had something like the Speed Twin 1200 even before that motorcycle came out. But they decided to get rid of the XR 1200. They could have even decided to put the 750 engine from the Street Rod 750 that I just talked about. They could have put that engine in a frame like this, a body like this. They could have even made something more adventure-y, put some long tube forks on it and compete with the Scrambler 1200 from Triumph. Man, they could have done a lot with this motorcycle, and they gave it up. They gave this XR 1200 up. So my 2024 Harley-Davidson lineup would have a 2024 XR 1200 in there. Probably with some liquid cooling and some improvements in there, to keep it as compliant as possible. Hypothetically, of course. Next bike, V-Rod. They should have kept the V-Rod around. If not the V-Rod itself, they should have at least kept the engine around. That 1250 engine is just a peach. The V-Rod itself is a badass motorcycle. And I feel like the Sportster S1250 kind of missed the mark a little bit. The engine is definitely powerful, as we see from the Pan America, and it's 150 horses. But this V-Rod motor was pretty dope, made a ton of torque, and they could have at least used that engine to put into new frames. They could have tried to improve upon this a little bit, work to keep it compliant, but they could have kept that high revving 1250, or actually I think some of the V-Rods were like 1340. There's different V-Rods, but they should have kept this around. There should be a 2024 V-Rod. They could have even taken this engine and adopted it into like a soft tail frame. They could potentially have a bagger out with this engine in it. I know the Indian Challenger, being Harley-Davidson's #1 competitor right now, their high revving Indian Challenger, I know, is their flagship motorcycle. They could have easily improved upon this V-Rod engine to make a high revving alternative for a large touring bagger. So yeah, I think for 2024, I think they could have. They should have just kept going making these V-Rods. They should have just kept going. They were just reliable and everything like that. Yeah, 100%. All right, now I know this one's gonna generate some polarizing opinions here, but the Rocker C, this was a pretty sweet bike, well known for its little flip out passenger seat and passenger pegs. So, it definitely wasn't a heavy hitter in the motorcycle community. A lot of people dislike the space here in between the front wheel and the engine and the frame. I think it has a real chopper-esque look to it. So I think that even though the chopper era is kind of done with, I really think that they should have kept this one around. I mean, Honda kept their Fury around. If Honda can keep their Fury around, look at that. If Honda can keep their Fury around as long as they did, then I feel like the Rocker C should have definitely been kept around. They should have maybe tried to improve upon that little flip out seat. Maybe do some extra stuff with it, improve upon it. I don't know. Another thing too is they could have kept up with the bobber, the big bobber rage too. They really didn't attempt to do anything with their bobbers either. I know a lot of people are like, oh well, they're street bob, but listen, once you see a Triumph bobber and the way that captures the bobber look, that hardtail bobber look. You know, they got that shock hidden in there. They tried to make it look as bobber-esque as possible with the fake carburetor things here. You know, I can't sit there and say that the Street Bob is, like, people have definitely turned them into bobbers. Like, that's a real, like, bobber build. But I mean, this is the Street Bob 114. Like, I'm not convinced. You know what I mean? Even the Indian bobber impresses me more. I mean, once again, that's a modified seat. I think the original seat looks something like that. But still, they should have kept the rocker seat around. And by now, they could have turned that into, they could have definitely had like their own bobber to compete with the other ones. And that could have been their competition for the Indian Chief bobber, could be their competition for a lot of those motorcycles, the Triumph bobber, the Indian Scout bobber. Or there's one more I want to talk about, and that is the Pan America. I know I spoke about the XR 1200 here. Well, with Ducati Scrambler, the Triumph Scrambler, a lot of these bikes that have these off-road variants and are more designed to go off-road, I feel like Harley-Davidson did the Pan America backwards. They should have come out with a Pan America 975 first. They could have even built the motor off of the Street 750. They could have even built the 975 engine off of the Street 750, or maybe use similar architecture or something like that. They should have come out with the 975 first. They should have done like Triumph did it. When Triumph transitioned from their 800cc triple, the Tiger 800, when they transitioned from the 800 here and transitioned to the 900, they did the 900 first. They came out with the T-plane crank 900, the new architecture for their triple engines. They came out with the 900 first. The 900 being their more obvious middleweight adventure bike. Harley should have done the same thing. They should have come out with a Pan America 900 or 975 first to really feed the off-road guys, you know, put long travel suspension. They should have done exactly as Triumph did, came out with the 975 first, make the more road-going version, make the more extreme enduro version. And they should have kept that out for a little bit to fix all the bugs on the smaller one. Out of between the on-road and off-road version, you know that the off-road versions are going to be put through their paces a lot more. So they should have used the Pan America 975 as like a test point for their new engines and new platform. And then it would have kept a lot of people waiting for a larger Pan America. So I think they really missed the mark there. Triumph really hit it off by making the 900 first. It really put out some suspense for their now Tiger 1200, which is a fantastic motorcycle. Absolutely freaking fantastic motorcycle. So I think the Pan America kind of messed up there. Harley-Davidson messed up. They came out with the 1250 first. And there's no response as to whether there's going to be a smaller variant of the Pan America 1250. And right now, it's sort of like, it's not really serious when compared to a lot of other ADVs. I mean, you can compare it, but not a lot of off-road guys are choosing the Pan America over other ADVs. It's just a fact at this point. not to say that things won't change, but I feel like it would have serviced Harley-Davidson more if they had come out with a smaller, more serious off-road variant first to really prove their mettle off-road. They should have come out with that. They should have been serious about the off-road scene and taken the ADV scene seriously. They should have come out with the 975 first, and then a few years later they should have come out with this 1250. And I feel like that would have been a better plan. But right now, what they did in real life was they came out with the 1250. Very polarizing opinions on that when it came out. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, number one ADV," but then like on the Pan America forums, like half of the Pan America owners were getting new engines, and engines were blowing up. Grab rails were snapping off. Kickstands were snapping off. All sorts of crazy stuff was happening. Screens breaking and whatnot. More than just like first year problems, like just bad design stuff. And then the rumor was that they were going to have a 975, and it never happened. It just never happened. The 975 that they put in the Nightster 975, essentially it's the same size and weight as the 1250. It's the same size and weight as the 1250. It's just like got smaller displacement essentially. So they can't just use this engine in a smaller Pan America. They would have to completely redesign it. So they just completely messed up by their strategy was just all wrong when they made that move. And I feel like having that street line around the 500 and the 750, having those around to continue R&D, learning from their mistakes, making those engines more reliable. I feel like they really missed an opportunity to make a more reliable, smaller displacement engine for platforms like off-road bikes, smaller Pan Americas, the scrambler bikes. Seems like every company right now has a very solid variety of motorcycles in their lineup between scramblers and bobbers, naked sport bikes, ADV bikes, middleweights and heavyweight ADVs. So Harley-Davidson kind of wedged themselves in a corner by ditching a lot of those like experimental motorcycles in the 2000s. By ditching those, they like really put themselves in a corner. So there you have it. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I wanted to get that off my chest. If you agree with me and you think a lot of those motorcycles should have stayed around, like this video. And if you don't like some of those motorcycles that I listed, and if you think that their current lineup is just fine the way it is, tell me about it in the comments. Give me some feedback. I know a lot of those motorcycles weren't people's favorites, but I think if they were still around now, I think Harley-Davidson would be doing a lot better. So if you like this video, give me a like. If you want to see more like this, subscribe. Peace.